Hello, hello. We are live, I think. We're here. We're alive. Uh, Anybody in chat? We didn't get this one scheduled ahead of time. So let's go ahead and run through the slides. Tonight we're going to be reacting to a couple videos we've got lined up. Should be fun and something new we haven't tried before. So we've got a panel here to kind of discuss and go over the videos. Um, if you have questions or you want to bring up a topic of discussion as the video is going on, just say something in chat and we can pause it and talk about it. So that is the plan for tonight. Thank you for joining us, June 2024. So let's go ahead and get started. That is the wrong button. So here's all the user groups here that are a part of MergePHP. We've got 10 user groups across the US, from the East Coast to the West Coast. Good representation of PHP in America. JetBrains license raffle giveaway. The first person to email Chris at atlantaphp.org wins 1 year license. It works for any JetBrains product. If you already have PHP Storm, you can get something else for a year. Pretty cool thing. And yep, if you have any friends or other people that you think could use it, it is we need to make sure that we're using them every month. So perhaps there's a new developer in your life that or somebody that you're talking to is interested in programming. This is a great resource to get them started. All right, PHP support. Hopefully everybody is on 8 point something. 8.0 is support has ended. So 8.1 or newer. Time to start migrating if you're on 8.0 or older. We've got a lot of upcoming conferences and events. This slide is up to date. Thanks to my other organizers for getting this updated. Lots of stuff going on all over the world, as you can see. Lots of stuff in Europe and Japan and the US. So I'd like to bring Ian up here, and he's going to talk a little bit about Cascadia PHP.
Hey there. So this October, Cascadia PHP will be coming back to Portland, Oregon. It's a Thursday, Friday, Saturday PHP community conference. Currently, the CFP is open through Sunday. We'll see whether that holds, but don't rely on an extension there. Get your talk proposals in now. Ticket sales will be going. Will be showing up soon, and I have my flight already booked up there. I was in Portland for both 2018 and 2019 editions of this conference, and I'm excited to see it come back. If you have questions about Cascadia, I may be able to answer them, or Alina, who is kind of the primary organizer for Cascadia, I can refer them to her if I don't know the answer. If you're wondering, hey, where is Longhorn PHP? Why is this guy shilling a conference that he doesn't even organize? Longhorn is taking a year off this year, given that We already have one Texas-based PHP conference, and it is Laracon. And at this point, if you want to attend that one, maybe watch and make sure that you don't miss if they release a few more tickets, or maybe just get a community sponsorship for them, because currently tickets for Laracon are sold out. So yeah, community conference, late October, cascadiaphp.com or cfp.cascadiaphp.com if you're wanting to speak. And I hope to see y'all there.
Awesome. Thanks, Ian. Yeah, so I think that's it for the intro stuff. I'm not sure the rest of the slides are updated, to be honest, but let's go ahead and get the first video queued up here. So give me a second. Stop screen. Present. How about, do you guys want to tell the audience kind of your general background in PHP? And we have a wealth of knowledge here, and I think kind of like setting some where we are coming from. It will be helpful in our discussions tonight. So go ahead, and whoever wants to go first while I find the video here.
My name is Eric Poe. I've been a professional developer for 10 years and a PHP hobbyist for probably 24 years. And my background is I was a systems admin for a very long time and used PHP there, and then was able to get a job doing PHP full time, which is a lot of fun. And I enjoy PHP.
PHP is now 20.
Oh, that was quick. Sorry. Go ahead, Ben.
Cool. I'm Ben Edmonds. I've been an engineer for about 20 years now. Doing PHP for maybe 10 to 15 of those. Haven't actually done much PHP in the past couple of years, but I did a whole lot of it before that. I mean, just look at all these elephants over here, right? Yeah, so I think this will be pretty fun.
Yeah.
And Logan, you want to do an intro?
Yeah, sure. My name's Logan, and PHP wasn't my first language, but self-taught. Been using it since the early noughts, but lately, the last decade or so, I've been doing a lot of DevOps in deploying PHP in a variety of places. Spent a good decade, over a decade, as a PHP developer. So, and we all know a little bit of JavaScript, I think, as PHP devs. So, that's, I think, my second most well-known language. All right, so this first video, and I apologize, the pause, start and stop pausing is going to be a little bit awkward. So if you want me to pause it, I don't know. Can you guys hit play? Let's test that. Is it only a me thing? Okay, because it's my
Only you.
Yeah. All right. So so just like raise your hand and I'll pause it, and we'll figure it out as we go along. All right. So we got the first video queued up. We have not watched. We have 3 videos queued up, and so this is the first of 3. We haven't watched these videos before, so this should be interesting and fun thing to do. So I guess as we get started on this first video, can you guys in chat just make sure that the audio is good on the video? We haven't done this before, so there may be some technical kinks, yeah, just bear with this while we figure this out. All right, let's get started.
9 years old. Can you even imagine how the world looked like in 1995? No Google, no Facebook, no ChatGPT or Copilot. no
AI.
and developers were trying to build websites in C language. Well, at least they didn't have to choose a JavaScript framework. Anyway, to
And now it's like, there's so many JavaScript frameworks, that, you almost couldn't count them. But did you guys both probably start with like plain JavaScript or jQuery is what I'm...
I don't understand your question. I'm sorry.
What there's like in terms of like JavaScript background, did you learn with a framework or like plain JavaScript, or like was jQuery your like first kind of intro to JavaScript?
For me, it was plain JavaScript.
Yeah, same for me. I think I might have started with VB script back when that was like a thing, and then moved into JavaScript reluctantly.
Nice.
celebrate PHP's 29th birthday, let's dive deep and experience the very first PHP version in history. PHP started as a set of programs written in C known as PHP tools, which stood for Personal Homepage Tools. It was much later, when the project evolved into a true interpreter, that the PHP acronym came to stand for Hypertext Preprocessor. Rasmus Lerdorf, the author of PHP, created and released PHP 1 to the public in June 1995. He may not have realized the impact his project would have on the world of the web development.
Oh, I think I like PHP!
Anyway, back
That it looked like Rasmus was at some user groups there, or maybe conferences. I couldn't. Did you guys recognize anyone else?
Was that
video?
Sarah Goldman in the last picture
me
there? Maybe
Rewind a bit.
after that.
Oh, there.
Next one. That one. Maybe. Can't tell.
In fact, it itself wouldn't appear for another 10 years. There were no services for open source distribution, even the term open source didn't exist yet. So the author of PHP first announced his project on the Usenet newsgroup, and if you're not familiar with newsgroups, they were like the Reddit of those days. Rasmus originally created PHP just for himself, to simplify managing his personal website and deliver client work faster.
I put together all my common stuff into a C library, hacked it into the NCSA web server, and then added a little templating system on top of that to let me easily call into it. And that was the first version of PHP.
Oh my goodness!
Let's try running PHP 1 after nearly 30 years.
Okay, let's go.
All versions of PHP, including the earliest ones, can be found at the Museum of PHP. Let's download the very first version and unzip the archive. Even though there aren't many files, there is a README, and it has installation instructions. It says that complete instructions supposed to be available on this website, which...
So, all right. So what was your guys' first version? I think it was 4 for me, maybe briefly 3, but does that track?
Yeah, my first one was 4. My friend was using 3, and and all the files ended in .php 3. I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah, I think mine was 4 as well. I don't remember the exact version, actually.
I wonder, so did PHP 2 was just .php, and then like it was like maybe a Python 3 situation where they're like, oh, we're going to come up with a new version, but it's not backwards compatible, so we were going to add a 3 onto the file extension. Is that like how we got PHP 3? There's got to be a story there, right? Like, I'm glad they figured it out, and we don't have multiple file extensions.
Let's do PHP 6 file extensions from now on.
Right. Just tack the version number on the file extension, yeah.
of course does no longer exist. Okay, let's see the config.h file. It has several macros defined, so let's update the first one. Now we can run the make command, which will compile the 4 CGI programs. At this stage, it's not clear what each program is responsible for. We'll try them out to find out. But we need a CGI web server to make it work. And in 1995, the most popular was NCSA HTTPD, which became the basis for the Apache HTTP server later the same year. We'll do something completely different. We'll implement a very simple CGI web server using modern PHP. But what is CGI? CGI, or Common Gateway Interface.
Yeah, this is going back to like the Perl days, right? Like, do you guys ever use Perl?
Yeah, I started with Perl before I found PHP.
Yeah, definitely.
Nice.
But I love this that he is serving PHP 1 using a modern version of PHP. You know, so just
I
cracking
didn't
up there.
catch that. That's awesome.
Yeah, and then a little bit back further, I loved, like, in that README file, or no, not in the README file, in the .h file, there were a whole bunch of comments to explain what each line does, and
Oh, really?
having that kind of comment in a file, you know, especially for something that we're looking at 29 years later, is just tremendous. You know, this was definitely made for people that don't know what the heck they're looking at, which, you know, is great. So thank you.
Yeah. Maybe that's where, like, you know, Laravel is famously known for having really good comments. You know, he's looking at the PHP source.
What's the thing Laravel comments do too? Like Taylor makes them all a certain length or a certain number of words or something. It's
Yeah, some
impressive he's able to keep that consistent.
Yeah. Yep. He's probably got some system for. He's written some, you know, wrapper thing. Convert this body of text to my comment format or something.
Some poor AI that just has to dig through those comments all day.
Yeah. I think this is where we are, right? The CGI. Yeah.
Interface is a standard that allows a web server to pass user requests to external programs for processing and then return the results back to the user. The standard appeared in the early 90s and was popular until the early 2000s. Anyway, let's look at the PHP implementation. I'll do speedrun. You can find the sources by the link in the description if you want to see all the code. So I create a class which takes address and port, and it will have a run function. In this function, we initialize a socket and start listening to incoming connections. Then, in an infinite loop, we handle the requests. We need to parse the request to get URL and body, and then we'll process the request. Basically, for each request, we run an external program, which in our case is PHP 1. And whatever that program prints out, we capture the output and send it back to a user. And that's all we need. Now let's run our CGI server PHP.
So there was no FPM, right, at this point. Like, FPM was added later.
Yeah, that was much later, like 5.3 or 5.4. I don't remember which.
Okay. And
this is like before Apache even, right?
because there was like mod PHP
Yeah.
or something, right? At some point.
Mod PHP was for Apache, I believe. But yeah, this 1.0 definitely came out before Apache did. I mean, that's why. And a little earlier, the author was talking about that. But I love that we're seeing like this is what PHP looks like now, and in a little bit we'll see what PHP looked like back then. Yeah, and Ian says that before there was fast CGI, there was CGI, and using that CGI bin directory was a lot of fun.
Put all your web scripts there. Cool. Yeah, so he's going to show us a 1.0 code here soon.
And analyze it. PHP-L.CGI is the main program that handles rendering HTML pages, access control, and storing page visit statistics. It expects path to a file as a parameter, so let's create an index.html file and let's try opening it. As you can see, it's pretty much just HTML, but with some info about visits that PHP added at the bottom. Does this have any templating capabilities? Well, sort of. It can render a few built-in variables. For example, there is a version variable, and the syntax is following. So it's pretty much like HTML commands. It can also do a bit. Can you even imagine how the world looked like in...
See, I screwed it up. I was trying to pause it. So we didn't have... God, look at that syntax. It's... Right? Like, that's changed a lot.
But it's still got the dollar sign.
Right?
Because, you know.
Money.
Show me the money. That's cool.
Pretty much like HTML.
Oh, sorry.
And the exclamation point was traded in for a question mark later.
Okay.
We just got a little less sure of ourselves.
Yeah, we're like,
Should I be using this? I see the money. Okay.
HTML commands. It can also do a bit of access control. Let's say we want to have a page protected.html, which is only accessible by password. In this case, we can add a file with the same name but ACC extension, and we specify that it's a private page and it requires email and password. And if we go to see the page, after entering the email and password, we can access the content.
so it's like you don't need... this is all PHP. There's no Apache, no Nginx. Well, yeah, so... Yeah, CGI is just like so different than what we're used to now. Like having that web server layer in front of the code. This is interesting.
Another program that comes with PHP 1 is PHPF.CGI. It is responsible for processing form data. So let's add a simple feedback form where users can enter their name and message. We need to specify PHPF.CGI form in our action attribute of the form. Now, when we submit the form, the submitted data will be written to a .rest file in the forms folder. The other two programs are more for admins. PHPLmon.CGI is a program for processing logs and displaying page visit statistics, and PHPLview.CGI provides more detailed statistics on each page. The data is taken from .log files, which are also written by PHPL.CGI. And that, my friends, is PHP 1. A small set of tools for controlling access, keeping visitor statistics, and saving web form data. PHP has come a long way, and today it's a great program.
Wow. Okay, that was it. That's all the features.
Basically shows you it's a hit counter and a form processor. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah,
Well, that's all you needed back in 1995.
I guess so.
Wish that was all we needed now. Looks great.
Yeah.
Do we really need JavaScript?
Programming language with a mature and vibrant ecosystem. But one thing remains unchanged. PHP is a productivity tool. It is pragmatic and allows delivering results fast. My name is Roman Pronsky. I work for the PHP Foundation, a non-profit organization that develops the PHP language. Hope you liked the video and see you next time.
Cool. That was good. That was a fun video.
Yeah, they're saying that. That was cool.
Happy birthday, PHP.
Yeah. So is this? I didn't see the date on when. Is it 29 years in November last year? Is that right?
No, I think this video came out, I think, last week.
Okay. So it'll be 29 in November. Or wait, no, that November is just when the new versions come out, but
Yeah.
the actual date is something else. Okay.
Yeah, if somebody in the comments can use a magic tool to find when to ask the internet when he was born, that would be wonderful.
I'm guessing it's like March or something. As you know, it's probably the first part of the year.
Yeah,
but who knows?
And Catherine says that she read a book by Elizabeth Castro on how to build websites or similar. And it said that for forms, we no longer use Perl scripts. Instead, we use this new language called PHP. That's pretty awesome.
It's better than Perl.
That's right.
All right, let me get the next video queued up here. So the next one's from Aaron Francis, and
Every time I make a video on PHP,
as soon as it starts, as soon as I load the video. So, all right, here we go. I think we've had Aaron talk before, give a talk for MergePHP. So, yeah, this will be good.
The videos I make, I get the exact same comment. PHP is dead. PHP sucks all the time, every time. And most of the people that think PHP is dead haven't looked at PHP since like 2012, which is before 5.4 came out. And listen, things were a lot different in 2012. I had just graduated college with a degree in accounting for some reason. This guy was still the president over here. This movie was in theaters, and honestly, pretty good movie. Our music went through this real weird hey ho phase where we were always shouting hey ho in the songs. So I think it's safe to say that a lot has changed since 2012. I'm no longer an accountant, and PHP no longer sucks. I'm going to run you through a bunch of the language changes that have happened since around 2012 when PHP 5.4 came out. And stick around to the very end because we're going to talk about types. We got to talk about type safety. Every time I talk about PHP, people just say, yeah, I just need types. We got to have types. What about types? Do you guys have types? I can't leave my types. We've got types. So I'm going to show you all the different types you can do at the end. Let's take a look at these changes. Going all the way back to 2012 for this one, PHP 5.4 included traits. So instead of writing the same method body over and over and over, or instead of abusing inheritance, we now have composition. So you can have traits and include those in every class, favoring composition over inheritance. Sure.
I mean, like all the stuff that we've taken is like, oh yeah, we have that. It's like a lot. So much stuff was added in the 5.0 days. 5.3 was big. And as we're talking about now, like 5.4 added a bunch of stuff.
Yeah, like every dot release in the 5 versions was practically a new major, right?
Yeah.
I mean, not deprecations, but at least on like net new functionality.
Yeah, and since then, definitely the RFC process has really improved the way features get added to PHP. Rather than being a pet project, a pet secret project of some core developer. And suddenly PHP has this. It's gone through like some tremendous commenting and discussion and testing and voting, like, is this actually something that we need, or is this something that we want? And an RFC process, I've really enjoyed following that over the past decade.
Yeah, having an actual process that we follow. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's a great place to go for documentation as well. You know, not just the docs on PHP.net, but the docs on rfc.php.net/wiki, or maybe it's wiki.php.net/rfc.
To
So
see
anyway,
what people are thinking about adding or want.
yeah, and what the thought process was behind adding these features, and just seeing how it's, you know, like sometimes you read the documentation and I still don't understand what this feature is, but then you go into the RFC and you get a really good understanding of what the feature is.
Cool.
Short array syntax. Imagine writing out the word array like a caveman when you can just use square brackets. Short array syntax allows you to use square brackets. Thank you very much. We now have array destructuring. It used to be that you would have to assign an array to a temporary variable and then reference those elements by index if you wanted to assign them to other variables. Now, you can just use array destructuring and directly assign the variables from the array. We have first-class variadic functions, so you can pass as many arguments to a function as you want using this ... syntax. Speaking of ... syntax, you can use that same syntax to spread or splat an array into an argument list for a function call. You can use that same syntax to spread or splat an array into another array. So if you want to take all the items from one array and put it into a second array, you can do that with this spread operator. We now have generators. If you want to do something,
I feel like a lot of this stuff, like, you know, yes, we've got inspiration from other languages, but now it's like JavaScript is like, you know, becoming more and more like PHP. Like, you know, a lot of these operators are showing up in languages that didn't have them. So yeah, it you know, the languages all, you know, maybe they work differently. You know, the operators are vary depending on the language, but the general idea behind them, it's like, oh, you know, the spread operator, it's going to work similarly.
Yeah, and they certainly influence each other. You know, the different languages and the features that show up in one language will show up in other languages, and something that might show up in PHP will show up in JavaScript and Python or something like that. You know, it's just really great to see that ecosystem at large influence.
Yep.
Memory intensive, but in a memory efficient way. You can use a generator. So if you need to read a huge file, you don't have to load that whole file into memory. You can use a generator to yield it line by line by line. If you ever need a new class but can't be bothered to make a new file, who has the time, you can create an anonymous class. An anonymous class can implement an interface just like every other class, and so this is a great use case for when you need one stupid little implementation, but you don't want to make a full class for it. This is a big one. I need you to pay very, very close attention. We now have trailing commas in function calls. So look very closely at email. Look at the very end of the word email and watch what's about to happen. Amazing. We now have trailing commas in method calls. PHP rules. This one's for all my JavaScript friends.
Go. Yeah. What were you going to say, Ben?
That might be like my favorite feature they added, actually, because so many times I'm like, where's that damn comma? I know it's there somewhere.
Yeah,
and with the git commits, you know, you don't overwrite, you don't ruin the history of that, you know, why that thing was added, by adding a comma at the end. So it's absolutely wonderful.
Know you love your arrow functions. Well, look out, friends. We've got arrow functions too. Ours, honestly, are, well, they're a little bit worse. I don't like the FN at the beginning to denote that it's a function, but hey, we work with what we've got. We have.
Does anybody actually use FN? Like, I feel like I just type it out all the time.
I don't use event either.
So, some of my coworkers do.
You
Short
said that with a
closure.
little bit of judgment in your voice,
Yeah.
Eric.
You're like, It took me forever to get the hang of ternary too. Like, you're like looking at it and just give me my if statements. I want my if statements.
Or arrow functions. PHP 7 brought us the null coalescing operator, so we can say the username is equal to the username unless the username is null, in which case we'll go with guest. So we have this nice, neat null coalescing operator, but we also have the null coalescing assignment operator, which can shorthand all of that and say, if the username is set, leave it alone, otherwise set it to guest. Speaking of nulls, we used to have to do something like this. We would pull the birthday off of the user, and then before we were allowed to call a method on birthday, we would check to see if birthday existed, because you don't want to call a method on null. But now we have the null chaining operator, and we can just say if birthday is not null, call the format function on it. If it is null, just stop the chain right there. We have named arguments now. It used to be that if you wanted to skip over an optional argument, you had to leave a null in the position of that argument, but now we can just name our arguments and pass them in any order that we want. PHP has attributes now, which in other languages are probably called annotations, but you can add an annotation.
Like Symfony uses this a lot, right? The annotations.
Yep, definitely.
Yeah. I can't think of it.
It's lovely.
Do you like them? I've never really been a fan of annotations.
I really do. Symfony used its own style of annotations for a long time, and it's just really great. Like in this case, being able to add the root to the class as well as to the method that you're working on it's great that you don't have to open up yet another file to map out what the roots are and where they point to. So I really enjoy being able to use the annotations in this way, and we use them for we're a Symfony shop where I work, and we use them for voters and for all sorts of things. That's just, it's so nice. Doctrine loves annotations as well.
Interesting. If you like annotations, let us know in the comments.
To a class or a method or an argument or a property, you can add an annotation to almost anything and control a little bit of behavior that way. Keep this in mind. We're going to look at this again in a second.
They work inside the class, right? I mean, it's not just outside the class. It's at the function level.
At the function level, at the parameter level, you can add them in quite a few places.
This one is just a huge, massive improvement. It used to be when you were catching an exception, you had to have a variable for that exception, even if you weren't going to use it. Even if you were just simply going to return false, you had to have that little E in there. Now, look at this. Watch this. Watch that E. Amazing. No longer needed. If that's not reason enough to switch to PHP, I don't know what to tell you. Okay, remember those attributes that I told you?
Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
That is new to me. I did not know that was a feature. That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, I got used to the E. I'll have to remember that.
Yeah, I if I saw that in a PR pull request, I would say this is missing an E.
Right.
But not anymore.
That would be a good find all, replace, delete the E's, right?
Be a good use case for Rector PHP.
Yep.
About literally 2 seconds ago, there's an attribute that will mark an argument as sensitive and redact it from all stack traces, so you don't accidentally end up logging something you shouldn't.
Awesome.
At a language level. Very cool. Look at this switch statement. It's hideous. It's huge. We hate it. What we're doing is we're switching on a status code, and then in the body of every status, we're setting a message variable. There's got to be a better way. There is a better way. We can use the match statement
Amazing.
now and assign the message variable to the result of the match statement.
Okay, I didn't know about that either, and that's much easier. So
I
much
don't know
less
if I've ever
code.
used match. It's good to know.
Yeah.
And look, at 200, 300, we can have multiple matches return the same thing. This is a much more compact, much more readable way to write a switch statement that assigns a variable. We've got weak maps now. Did you know that PHP has weak maps? You can set an object as a key in a weak map where you can't do that in an array. And also, weak maps are way better for memory because they'll get garbage collected when there's no references to that object anymore. PHP now has enums, so you can have an enum class where you delineate the cases inside the body of that class, and those enums can also have a value. So if you want to use the words draft, published, and archived in your code base, but you want to use the values 1, 2, and 3 in your database, you can do that with a backed enum. That's not all that enums can do.
Yes.
Yeah, enums have been around in programming languages for like all time. And so it was just really crazy to enter into PHP and not see enums. So I was really happy when this came out.
Not having 3 different constants, in global state that are passed around.
Yeah, I created a class that was just this plus methods to access it in various different ways, and it was just stupid. I just needed an enum.
Yep. They're great for databases too.
You can add methods to your enum classes. In this case, we'll add a method that gives a user-friendly display to each of the enums, and we're using the match statement again, and we're just matching against this, and all of our cases are our enum cases. One of the great things about having first-class enums is you can now use them as type hints. So if a method is expecting an enum, you can hint that enum class, and that way PHP will validate that the incoming argument is that enum. All right, here we go. We're going to run through a bunch of the ways you can add types to PHP. First, you can have typed arguments. In this case, we're saying A and B must both be integers. This is a scalar type hint. You could also type hint classes or enums like we showed earlier. You can have return types. In this case, we're saying it must also return an integer. That makes enough sense. If you're adding two integers together, it should return an integer. But not all numbers are integers. Some numbers are floats. So you can also have union types. You can say int or float, and it can return an int or a float. If you wanted to add more than two numbers together and you have a variadic function, you can also use types for that. No problem. Let's move on to a class. Here we're saying that the argument input must be of type foo or bar. This is the union type that we just talked about. But you can also have an intersection type where you say that the argument input must be of type foo and bar, which is really helpful when you're trying to ensure that an argument adheres to more than one interface, but you don't care what the type of object is. As long as it adheres to foo and bar, you can do whatever you need to do. You want to get even crazier? If you want to ensure that input is foo and bar or it's nullable, you can have a disjunctive normal form type. And I had to learn those words for this specific video. You can have foo and bar or allow it to be null. Let's look at another example.
I think that's getting a little confusing. Like you might need to refactor if you run into this use case.
We've been typing arguments, but you can also have typed properties. So if you look at this class, you'll see that the public title property is of type string, and the public date property is of type date time. Now this is a little repetitive, isn't it? We've got the two properties at the top, we've got the two arguments in the constructor, and then in the constructor we have to set the class level properties. This is a little verbose. This is how we used to have to do it until the PHP gods introduced constructor property promotion. And now you can put the visibility in your constructor signature. You can say public string title, and it will end up as a public property on your class. This is called constructor.
That's cool. That's pretty cool.
And I will say he mentioned the PHP gods introduced this. If you go to the RFC wiki, you can see exactly which PHP gods
Yeah.
introduced that and who voted on it and who voted against it.
Promotion. I don't love that you end up with an empty constructor body, but I do love that it reduces all of that boilerplate.
Yeah,
If you wanna-
that seems like really handy for reducing just like getters and setters.
mark a property as read-only, meaning that it can only be initialized once and then never changed, there's a keyword for that. You can say that a property is read-only, and you can do that in the constructor as well. If your entire class is read-only, you can mark the class as read-only instead of marking each individual property as read-only. A lot of stuff has changed. If you haven't been paying attention, you might think PHP is dead, but alas, it is not dead. Let's talk about speed. Every time I make a video, people are like, yeah, but PHP is so slow. PHP between like 5.6 and 7 experienced a 400% performance increase, and then I think another 20% between 7 and 8. So PHP is not as slow as you remember. So if you need something like 50,000 requests per second, you should probably still not use PHP for that. But look at me, listen to me. When have you personally needed 50,000 requests a second? How many users do you have? So PHP is fast enough. It is fast enough for most of your use cases. And if you need a specialized use case, use a specialized language. But the PHP of yore is not the same.
It's all about the CDN. I don't know about you guys, but like Cloudflare, I can get 600 requests a second pretty easy. Just throwing Cloudflare in front of it.
Well, and comparing 5.6 to 7.0, I think it would be unfair to say that was entirely PHP. Like Sarah Goleman did a tremendous amount of work when she was at Facebook with the hack language, and that I think got a lot of PHP developers to sit up and pay attention, because suddenly hack was like this amazing language that was so much freaking faster than PHP, and we were able to take on so much of that functionality and speed improvements that hack is no longer a language.
Yeah.
It's just absolutely amazing. And so huge hat off to Sarah Goleman for the work that she did on hack and on PHP core for that matter as well. And she's just tremendous asset to the community. So thank you, Sarah Goleman.
Thank you, Sarah.
It's also maybe the first downfall of Twitter when they banned Sarah.
That's news to me. What?
It happened years ago, I think.
Wow. Good grief.
And then she never came back, I don't believe.
I don't blame her.
As the PHP of today, it is much faster, it is much better, and it is not dead. See ya.
How's the end?
So what do y'all think was the most overhyped feature? So personally, I was really excited for traits, and I thought I was going to use them all the time, and then I so rarely ever used them.
I feel like you probably use them, but you don't realize that, like they're in the framework or something, right? It's like in the thing that you're using. Probably. I don't know.
Yeah, and Ian brings up that probably the most overhyped feature is the JIT, the just-in-time compiler. And I think if you were doing a lot of mathy type stuff, it's great, but I know that we don't take advantage of it where I work, and we take advantage of oh good grief, now I can't think of what it's called now, but the caching that
opcode caching.
Very good. Opcode caching is opcache is just absolutely amazing. It's sped up so much of the PHP that we serve.
Yep.
And we rarely use traits as well.
it took me a while to get the hang of namespaces. Like, I feel like I don't know if that's overhyped or not, but like going from non-namespace code and then like as more and more things started adopting it, and then like I think didn't you have to get the file path, like the I feel like namespaces like in the first release were a lot rougher than they are today.
Oh, definitely. They were definitely a lot rougher, but like Ian says, they're in the chat. They are not overhyped. Composers made the namespacing a heck of a lot easier.
Yeah.
You know, but going from like creating a big file with a bunch of functions to now creating a class file with a bunch of methods, going from that function type, not functional, but just that function type of file programming to object-oriented programming, I think was a huge, for me at least, it was a huge mental block. It was an intellectual block for doing that, but I can't even imagine going back right now.
Talk about overhyped. What's your favorite new feature? If you can pick just one.
New feature?
Yeah, since maybe feature overall, I guess. But I was more thinking like since the 5.3 to now or something.
The speed improvements. I don't know. Like, yeah. Dependency injection.
It's good. It's not a feature, but Composer might be my favorite. Like, change to the PHP ecosystem.
Yep. Composer's definitely huge there. My favorite new feature is one that's coming in PHP 8.4, and that is I can't remember what it's called, but when you declare a parameter, not a parameter, like a variable in a class, you can also declare the getters and setters right with it as part of that. And so all of those, you're containerizing essentially the use of that variable, and how it gets used and how it gets set and how it gets and it's just like
the variables variable.
I've seen that in C# like a decade ago, and loving it when I was working on a simple script in C# and wishing that I had that available in other languages. And PHP is going to have that in November. Just awesome.
It is awesome. Should I queue up the last one? This one is from Primogen, a pretty well-known YouTuber, and he's reacting to another video on PHP. I did watch a little bit of it, and so he's going to be talking a bit about, or he's going to be talking to his chat a bit. So I think we should be listening to like the video he's reacting to, but also probably comment on his comments. Is kind of how we should look at this next one. All right, so let me find that one.
And while you're looking, Ian says that his favorite feature since 5.3 is the type system, and that's also huge. I completely agree.
Everyone hates PHP, and why you should too. I feel like I could like PHP.
Let's just say it like that. PHP is terrible. Between all of the programming languages that have ever existed, few of them are as hated as PHP is. This programming language is hated by the coding community while still having a loyal user base. But why is PHP hated by the community? And is it actually as hated as the internet makes it look like? You'll find out in this video, where I'll also bring my PHP programmer friend who will tell us his opinion on the language and how he...
Okay, real talk, I think PHP is better than JavaScript.
Boom. Real talk, real talk. He's out of the gate with that zinger. Yeah. So I wonder where the when did it like become this like punching bag, right? Like any theories? Like I feel like there was like some competition or heated discussion between Ruby and PHP back in the day. And you know, I don't know. I'm not sure when it started.
That's what it feels like to me too. I remember there being a big divide on like, were you a Ruby person or were you a PHP person, and they kind of hated each other. And it's Ruby was the cool language for a long time, and now everybody hates Ruby too. Nobody uses it. It's, you know, it all comes full circle.
Ruby is a good language. I will not deny that, but I think the hate started before you know, Composer became a thing. You know, because you used to have the applications that you would write would be mixing HTML and PHP and SQL all in the same line, and it was hard to read, and it was hard to follow and hard to refactor.
Like, when did Python get pip? You know, was that like before Composer, or because it seems like it, you know, the hate started in like PHP 4 or so, like you were saying, like before Composer. Yeah, I don't know. Paul says it started with Rails developers and their ego. That sounds plausible.
And now we've got Laravel developers and their ego. So
Yeah.
You know.
Yep. Everybody likes to feel like they're the expert, right? So
and they're all good. It's
yep.
I'm not gonna deny that.
Yep. All right.
Okay, I just got we were talking about before how many requests a second you can do in PHP, and so I posted in the Slack for all the ex-Wayfair people when I worked there, and we were doing 60,000 requests a second for the PHP app there on Cyber Monday.
That's awesome. The magic of load balancers.
Which version of PHP?
It is, I believe they're now on 8. That was one of the last projects I was working on when I left there. But most of that, when I was there, was on 7.
Well, that's awesome.
All right.
You guys think PHP is worse than JavaScript? Have you seen how good PHP has gotten? Go watch the Aaron Francis video, then come
Oh, we just did that.
back to me and tell me about that, okay? The thing is that if you think if your version of PHP that sucks is version 5.4, you're right. Version 5.4 sucked. But PHP today is not PHP from 10 years ago.
Do you see this? The chat, Next.js is based PHP. Yeah.
Okay, it is very, 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 very different. But PHP runs most of the internet. That doesn't make it good. Okay? That's not a way to sell me on its goodness.
He thinks the language is actually overhated and pretty good. PHP was created to be a general-purpose scripting language made for web development. It was originally created by Danish-Canadian programmer Ramses Lurch.
Okay, that's entirely too many. Danish Canadian? Like, does that also make you French by Canadian roots? Should you toss up 3 flags up there? How many flags does a man get?
In 1993 and released in 1995. It handles the back end of websites and is generally used to handle form data, manage databases, and create custom content for websites. Programming languages are supposed to offer a vast number of possibilities. Syntax, algorithm, that's what makes the beauty of it. When learning Python, you can easily make any program you want. That is not the case with PHP. It's often criticized for its ease of use and lack of opportunities. Anyone can code in PHP, and many inexperienced developers pick up the programming language and start writing functional but problematic code, which is difficult to
functional but problematic. I think that's a good description of a lot of inexperienced developers' code.
I would say it's the experience for just about every developer's code.
Yeah,
We all have still write those functions that are problematic.
yep. It is functional, but there's problems. Yeah.
And Catherine says that PHP seems to have adopted some good Ruby features, but then it was so hard to keep up with Ruby versions that it made it harder to use. And that, I think, I started to hear about Python and Django. All right. Thank you, Catherine.
Is that true? I mean, there's a lot of statements that just got said there that I'm trying to unwind. Okay, first off, Python easy. Yes, Python very easy. Does Python become hard? Yes, Python become very hard. Large Python program, very hard. Me grug brain, me can't handle large Python program. Large Python program, very hard. Is PHP hard? PHP's gotten very interesting. PHP has traits, okay? That makes it a completely different, like that changes. It's on a trajectory that's very exciting. Can you make PHP a mess? Yes. Even back in the day, it was pretty easy to make.
I mean, so the question is like all these new features that we just went over and that Aaron was talking about, like, does it, like, do we have too many tools now that it's overcomplicating things, and then like the code that the average developers writing is harder to maintain?
There's like 30 different methods for array manipulation and like 50 different ones for string manipulation in PHP. So yeah, there's definitely some overcomplication there. And I think that every developer and probably every team develops its own culture where maybe 3 or 4 of those are used on a regular basis that don't raise any eyebrows during a pull request. And if somebody uses an interesting one, a unique one during a pull request, then that definitely takes some time to take some additional time to analyze and go through.
I feel like we've all, come across the teams or code bases where we just create a wrapper, our own little layer that fixes the quirks. So, yeah.
Make PHP a mess, but it was also really easy to actually have a decent organization in PHP.
I did see there his chat is joking about Lambos. So apparently just everybody thinks that PHP developers are all driving Lambos. Or,
Well, there's one that does.
PHP. Like, I made some pretty large programs in PHP, and when I said large, this was 2009 internet backend, okay? These are not like large backends were not that large, and I was sitting at like 25,000 lines of PHP library code, and it worked pretty well. And can we just be real for a second? The LAMP stack / XAMPP, if you're on Windows, that was pretty awesome. That was a pretty great environment. Anyone who says the LAMP stack was bad, you suck. It was pretty dang good. Most of the internet applications that are horizontally scaling, that have microservices, that have all the latest things, that has that drizzle ORM feel on top of the Keasley planet scale, Terso, all this stuff, blah, 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 blah. You know what? Most of you guys have 0 users anyways. And so it doesn't really matter what you choose for your stack. You got nothing, and you have more servers than you have users. And it probably doesn't matter as much as you think it does, as much as a very simple application. Just a little bit of PHP, a little bit of MySQL, Bada bing, bada boom. That's how I did my first startup. I'm just saying. PHP has Terso lib now. Okay, PHP is awesome. Terso is actually really good. Again, by the way, I'm going to be starting a series. Type 1 in the chat if you're excited about this. I was sitting in a room with one of the founders of Terso, and he's.
I might skip through this part. I think he's going off on a tangent a bit. But let me see where.
And on about.
There's no fast forward button, so I gotta like move the slider.
How just these crazy bugs were coming up in the Linux kernel due to time. And I'm sitting there thinking, you know what we're missing? We don't have the oral tradition for all these just funny things that happened. We're kind of missing that goodness. Maybe
We're the oral tradition. That's what he needs to go to the meetups. You know, like this is the oral tradition happening right now.
Do you not see how much gray is in our beards?
Yep. But yeah, I feel like don't underestimate our ability to reinvent the wheel. Like we're gonna be like, all right, there's a reason that some of these like JavaScript frameworks are starting to feel a lot like PHP. Just saying.
we need an oral tradition.
Oh, go ahead.
I was going to say, I use a JavaScript framework that was created by PHP developers.
Ah, there you go.
Of just the dumbest things ever. So you remember?
Were you gonna say something, Ben?
Saying that framework, or what framework are you talking about here?
Sencha X.js.
Ah, Sencha.
Is that still actively developed?
Not by Sencha.
This is terrible.
The people that have forked it.
Oh, no, it's not. It's not been forked, but it's. I think they farm it out to a third party to develop for them.
Got it.
Because it is now part of a much larger conglomeration of. Anyway.
That one post where Linus completely tears apart that one guy that's like, your code is always shit, you're always these things, blah, 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 blah. Turns out that guy is good friends also with the founder of Terso, and he's going to come on the show as well, and we're going to talk about it. I think I like the idea personally. The lore. I just want the lore. I just want lore. PHP is good. PHP is good. DHH coming. I would like DHH to come on here. I think it could be. I think it could be some of the best tech content of all time. It's just deep lore that just you can't get. The only problem I see with the deep lore is I feel like the deep lore is only best talked about at 9 p.m. at night after 2 Brazilian mojitos. Okay, I forget what the Brazilian mojitos are called, but I feel like there's just this time, like there's a certain mentality you have to have.
Understand and really messy, without forgetting the lack of security in the web apps that result from that. I mean, PHP is a program.
So if anybody thinks about some deep lore, you want to bring up some deep lore, maybe we can say a few things if you think of anything.
I would say if you want deep lore, go to a PHP conference. Check out the hallway track.
The hallway track for sure.
And hang out at the bar late at night.
Yeah.
You will get some very good lore.
Yep.
Especially if you can find Cal Evans and buy him a drink.
Or Sarah Goleman.
That as well.
I mean, that's how we got Composer, right? Like Composer was like, they were in the hallway track and they're like, hey, like what would make the language so much better is like if we add this package manager. Okay, let's go do that. And they like built the initial version of Composer like at a conference or something.
That's awesome.
I think that's a true statement. I'm pretty sure that's a true statement. But yeah.
It is now lore. It's on the internet.
It's now lore.
Programming language like any other. You can make anything you want with it, but the difference is how you can solve problems in those languages.
Wait, what? Didn't you just say that you can't You can't solve every problem.
PHP was originally designed with a focus on web development, and its primary use case is evident in its architecture. While it is possible to create command line programs in PHP, it wasn't the language.
Really? You can fully just create command line programs these days? Does that mean we get an EXE, you sweaty nerds, or do we still get code? Do we get code, or do we get EXEs? Which ones do we get? Yeah, the campfire code stories. Yeah, this is what I want. It's something that I've been really thinking about. You get code? See, I just want the EXEs.
I built like so many like, you know, the Symfony CLI, you know, like you can build all sorts of stuff with that. I do feel like the whole like distributing it as a zip is not as easy as, you know, having a binary. But oh well.
Smelly nerds. A zip? You want to give me a zip? Dude, there's nothing that triggers normies more than a tar. Okay, if you tar BZ those sons of bitches, oh man, you just crossed a line that you can't come back from.
Language's intended purpose.
Yeah.
Logan, I think he's listening to you.
Yeah, I think yeah. we're on the same page there. Yeah.
He was going forward in time and listening to you. This is awesome.
Yeah.
Additionally, early versions of PHP were known for their somewhat makeshift nature. Ramses Lerdorf initially conceived PHP as a template language for his web pages, which influenced its early development. I can go on Reddit and write that I want to learn PHP, and most of the answers will be to go for another programming language and get a greater return for your time. They are not wrong, since its reputation has taken over, and people tend to recommend more modern and suitable languages, just like Python to beginners. So why?
But like,
yeah, I don't know. I mean, I think it's still fine, like a great language to learn programming with. So I don't know.
The comment that it's more that they're recommending more modern and suitable languages. Are you building a back end?
Modern.
It's modern and it's suitable.
Yeah, agreed.
that's the thing. You know, they're saying that, but again, PHP has some of the most modern language features these days. New
There it
PHP is more.
It's like he's agreeing. He is the fourth person on the panel.
more modern than JavaScript. So what's that all about?
Why waste your time?
So wait. I gotta back it up here a sec. He just said it's PHP is more modern than JavaScript. Is that? Can we all agree? Let me. All right. I just want to hear this again.
Is more modern.
Why?
But like that's the thing. You know, they're saying that, but again, PHP has some of the most modern language features these days. New PHP is more modern than JavaScript.
Do we agree with this statement?
I think it depends on how you define modern.
Definitely. And ECMAScript is getting a new version every single year. Gosh, so is PHP. You know, it's there's growth in both languages, and they're influencing each other, which is great to see.
Yeah. I mean, I feel like they're both modern.
Yeah, and NPM I think took a lot of what it does from Composer. As a process.
Yeah. Ian's point is PHP is closer to TypeScript than JavaScript. So, so if we're considering PHP versus TypeScript, then it's a different story. But like all the more modern features are actually in TypeScript, not JavaScript.
Yeah, and Catherine, to go backwards, Catherine states that if you want lore, go check out the Longhorn PHP Conference Discord channel because it is lore filled.
True.
So what's that all about?
Why waste your time learning that language? Well, to see that, let's analyze a snippet of PHP code together. We're first going to start by installing the language, and here's a sample code that will run. This is a simple login page made with PHP, and as you can see, the code is hard to read.
That like it's only hard to read because he went like 1,000 miles an hour there.
This could maybe come from me.
Well, I mean, you just sped it up super fast. It's really not that hard to read. It's just a template. You're just looking at a template.
Yeah.
That doesn't feel hard. I mean, real talk, that doesn't feel hard. Templates have never been hard. Templates are really easy. Okay, they generally are just super easy. When you give me a 400-line function that's React with hooks and a bunch of use effects and all that shit in there and a bunch of components that it calls out, I find that to be pretty hard to go through. Like real talk, I find that to be really difficult to go through a bunch of stuff. Have you not worked in professional environments? You go into see the thing is React and some of these modern ways of doing front ends are really nice until you go into a program that's been programmed for the last 3 years, and all of a sudden it's not nice anymore. All the niceness has died because that one product manager really wanted that one feature, and then it completely destroys your life. Okay, and it makes you emotionally painful, and then people have to naturally take shortcuts, and those shortcuts end with.
Yeah, this is how shortcuts happen right here. Doesn't matter the language.
Yeah, I'm working on a 20-year-old app. It's painful in places.
Yep. So, what was the templating language? Or I can't remember. It was back about 10 years or so ago. I don't think it before Twig existed. There was like that one,
Smarty?
the TPL. What was it called?
Smarty.
Smarty. Yeah. Smarty.
Smarty was like actually pretty good.
Yeah.
Like it was well featured. It was pretty consistent. You know, you could do bad things with it, but you can do that with anything.
Your mic's going out a bit, Ben.
Just abominations that exist, okay? They just exist, and it's okay. It happens. I'm not upset about the abomination, okay? But to just simply say that previous thing was bad and nothing else was bad, who hurt you? I've been working in the industry for like 20 years, okay? That's who hurt me. The world, real products, actual million-line code bases, okay? They hurt you because that's how it works, okay? This is just what happens. If you've never taken a shortcut on top of someone else's shortcut on top of someone else's shortcut on top of some system-level bug to cover it up, you have never done professional programming, okay? All you've done is greenfield, weak sauce programs. You need to be at the place where your comments are Jira tickets, and your Jira tickets have a history of changes referring to other Jira tickets for every shitty decision you've made for the last 4 years running, okay? That's real enterprise programming.
True talk. It's like too painful. It hurts, I think, right here. Yeah.
Yeah, and then at some point, when you go down the history, you find a link to, like, you know, before you switch to GitHub, some other system that you no longer have history of anymore.
Yeah, you just follow the rabbit trail, you know, and then you're like, oh, it ends here. I guess I don't need to know that answer.
Bro, I created Lola, bro, okay? Absolutely upsetting you guys.
Me not knowing the language enough, but the language is well known for its lack of strict structure and conventions, which results in inconsistent.
I do feel like this was a super unfair comparison, and I assume that this unfair comparison was made such that he's going to come back with his friend, and his friend is going to say something that, like, kind of changes your mind, because that was just like, look at the templating. It's bad programming. It's like, yeah, but that's just the templating part. There's still this whole other aspect to life.
And difficult to maintain code. Auditing and maintenance become really hard. Well, I mean, just imagine coming back from a week of vacation and taking a look at that. This has definitely contributed.
I can't tell if he's being real or not. I'm just waiting for the turnaround, right? And gotcha, right? Because that's, dude, imagine going on a week of vacation and coming back to this, okay? Imagine trying to do math on partitioning virtual boxes again. Okay, look at this. To-do. I hate this interface. I forgot to remove the to-do. I now like the interface because I created a quad tree parameter which has row depth, columns, and stride. I use the term stride.
contributed to the negative outlook on the language and its bad reputation. If you've been watching this long and have enjoyed the video, consider interacting with the video in some way. It helps with the algorithm. Now, anyone can understand that if a programming language has high demand in the market and will make you good money, I'm not going to waste your time. It doesn't. Most companies aren't looking for PHP developers anymore, resulting in videos like PHP will make you poor by Fireshell, where he says that
Like right now, if you're struggling to get into the industry and all you know is React and JavaScript, Java, C#, PHP, Go. Like there's like a lot of ways to start getting it. No, I wouldn't say Rust because Rust only has like 4 jobs and they're all in cryptocurrency. So like that's like, that's it's a thing that you should be aware of. COBOL actually is probably a good way to get paid really well.
Man, I hope PHP doesn't go the direction of COBOL. Like as like what is the web going to look like in 20 years? It's interesting to think about.
I hope there's still a web, not just like proprietary apps for everything.
Yeah, just like an AI thing that you just give me the answer you talk to.
Yeah, the first 30 pages of any search will be ads.
Right.
Show me page 31.
Yep. I still enjoy blogging. I will say, WordPress did a lot for the internet. So, yeah, I like blogs.
I'm talking about jobs, okay, real jobs. You wouldn't understand. If you wanted to get a job and make some serious ass money, okay, ASS dash money kind of money or ass money, honestly, COBOL's probably the way to do it.
What?
English major here. No, that is not how you hyphenate serious ass money. You don't want ass money. You want serious ass money.
Yeah.
Saying that.
Yeah. Yeah. And I don't know. I mean, like, I feel like COBOL and Fortran, like, at some point they got to rewrite it, right? Like, his advice here of like, let's go learn the language from the 60s or the 70s. I don't know, like, if that's like you should learn it enough to like, so you get rid of it, right? Like, that's what we should be doing.
The places that use it, there's enough inertia that there is no way on God's green earth that they will move from using anything else. And I will say that, like, NASA, with as they don't use the latest greatest. There's no developers saying, gosh, we should use the latest version of React because it's like amazeballs. No, they use like vetted languages and features to the point where, like, last year there was a problem with the oh good grief, Voyager Voyager probe that was like way the frick out there, right? It was like a jillion miles away, and they were able to update this 50-year-old satellite that's the size of a Volkswagen Bug from Earth by aiming a beam of light at it, and updating the code from Earth using 50-year-old equipment, 50-year-old software, 50-year-old language. And they did that because they vet everything so well and so hard that there's a lot of inertia to prevent them from moving quickly in another direction.
Like, I mean, that had to be like C code or something. Like, it, it's going to take hundreds of years. Like, oh, everybody's like, oh, Rust is so much better than C. Okay, but there's so much C out there and so many people using it. Like, it's going to take forever for us to, like, slowly migrate away from C to something else.
And maybe the year 2038, when the 32-bit timestamp dies, when it goes over that additional 0 or whatever, maybe that will take care of a lot of the problem with some of these older applications, because they will have died at that point. But who knows? Maybe COBOL and Fortran has already resolved that with newer versions.
And Ian says Fortran is being actively developed.
I just googled what code is Voyager written in, and the note says it was originally developed in Fortran, but many pieces have been moved to the more modern C programming language.
Wow.
That's awesome.
That's right, Catherine. We'll be using C for a while.
You could get paid like 400 grand within a year. It's crazy. It's actually crazy. But the thing is once it becomes a hype, it will immediately crash and it'll be worth nothing. So it's kind of like this really weird, it's like this really, really weird zone that it lives in. Nobody wants to learn it, so it continues to be super valuable. But if you do learn it, you're going to make a lot of money. But then if everyone learns it, you're going to make no money. It's crazy.
HTML programmers make more money than PHP programmers. And we can definitely all agree that HTML is a programming language, right? Well, PHP can't be so bad, right? Well, no. The language has its ups and is made for a wider community, explaining its simplicity. Now, my friend will tell us about his experience with PHP and why it's not actually as bad as people make it out to be.
I started using PHP in school. It was pretty difficult to write complex code for a dynamic website.
I'm laughing because I just figured whoever was going to be coming on was going to be someone that was like maybe really well known in the PHP.
Yeah. I feel like the guy that made the original video he's reacting to isn't a big fan of PHP. So, but I don't know. Let's see what the rest of the video, how it goes here.
World is just a dude writing PHP. It's pretty great. I mean, that's pretty great. Dude, here's my friend. He writes PHPs. He writes the PHPs, just some dude. This is pretty great.
Websites. Because of the syntax, our code became very unreadable, but then a few years later, I stumbled upon Laravel, a powerful but simple framework utilizing PHP to create web applications. Laravel convinced me that PHP isn't bad at
some of that stuff they're taking from Fireship. Like they're definitely borrowing some clips from all. It's not his original. Well, I mean, obviously at Judge Judy, but yeah, this is like all over the place here.
though. I also did some scripting and I learned a lot from it. There are plenty of libraries to build whatever you want in an efficient and secure way. If you want to learn PHP to keep up with the industry, no problem. But nowadays, JavaScript and Java are at the lead. JavaScript can be used for anything, including strong backends, which can perform very well.
Well, conclusion of the video, don't learn PHP. Let's just say it.
No, the conclusion of the video was wrong. The guy who just said that was wrong. He just said that it creates high-performance backends. That's not true. It's not true at all. He just said how great Laravel was, and then he's just like Java or JavaScript, carpet, like just make it go. Dude, it's just not true. I think PHP is a great language. There you go. Am I going to use PHP anytime soon? Probably not. Do I like PHP? Yeah, I actually do kind of like PHP. If I decided to go LARPing today and just write some code that's unusual, I'd probably go write in PHP because it'd be fun. You know what? It would.
Yeah, it would be fun. And that's like, that's why I like the language so much is like, it's easy to use and it's fun to build stuff with. And
I will say that nobody hates PHP quite like somebody who uses PHP every single day. It's like we know its quirks and we hate it for that, but we also love it too. There's a dollar sign before every variable for a reason.
Yep. Well, I don't think there's it's just this outro stuff here. We don't need to watch the rest. I think we got the gist of it there. So what did you all think of this React PHP developers React? Yeah.
I thought it was fun. It was definitely different, right? Kind of cool.
Yeah, and it's not something we can do during a live talk. Interrupt the speaker and start ripping on their grammar, or
we could. We want to be real assholes.
But this was fun.
Yep. I thought it was something new we could try. So, yep.
And to have someone interrupt the live talk I was doing one time to correct like the third parameter in some example I gave was wrong or something. It's like, okay.
This is not a question as much as it is a statement.
Right. Yep. I guess we could do that, like if we have everybody pre-record their talks or something, and then be like, we're going to react to your talk.
Gosh, that would be terrifying. I honestly, if you knew that you were recording this just so that people could react to it, and I'd
give them a roast.
Yeah, right. It's like, no, I poured my heart and soul into this thing. I couldn't do that. That'd be difficult. And if I were to do something like that, I'd probably throw in some troll type statements, but that would still be difficult.
Some bait to to get you sneak the stuff by, and you're like, get them focused on that one thing. So I maybe we'll do this like once a year or something like that. Seems like a good way to break it up. Another format that we can do besides lightning talks. So the lightning talks did work well when we at Longhorn PHP. We did lightning talks the last couple of years, so that was fun. It's a lot easier to like point at somebody in the audience and be like, I know you, get on up here, versus like getting people to like sign up for a form, and then it's like too much planning involved. Like lightning talks, I think, need to be like spontaneous, just be like everybody else is, it's like there's some peer pressure to it.
Yeah. And that would definitely get rid of the PowerPoint presentation pressure as well.
Right.
If it's a spontaneous talk on anything,
you just pull up a web page and start talking.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
My favorite lightning talk, I think, is the time Jeremy and McCullough did a lightning talk about lightning at a PHP conference. It was fun.
That's interesting. That's a bunch of random facts. I think we did one on like I remember somebody gave like a cryptocurrency. It was like on Ethereum or something. When Austin PHP was meeting in person, and Ethereum, was like $1 or something probably, right? And they're like, "Oh, check out this cryptocurrency. I think it's gonna be this really cool thing," And we're all like, "Oh, yeah." And nobody listened to him. We should have listened to him.
Hindsight, man. Hindsight.
Yep. But all right. Well, I think that's all we had planned for this month. We've got something lined up for next month. I can't remember. I don't have the spreadsheet in front of me. I'm pretty sure we have something planned for next month. So I hope you all can join us again next month in July. We'll work on getting the YouTube video up here and scheduled with a little bit more ahead of time than it was this month. But yeah, thank you for joining us, and have a good rest of your month.
Cheers, friends.
Thanks, all. See ya.